Ow. Alright guys, for today's video. The other day I had a video about how there is no more registration stickers and paper registration for North Carolina drivers starting October 1st. And one of the main comments I got was, well, what happens if you are driving out of state and you get pulled over and a cop wants to see your registration? What I said essentially was, the cops all have access to it, the whole national registry of it. So you can just tell the cops the laws have changed. I no longer have a paper registration. And they will then be able to look up and see whether or not you are already registered. Or my underlying thing with the whole video was to just print a copy of your registration out and keep it with you. And then you don't have to worry about it anymore. So that's been a question for a lot of people in the state. And apparently Asheville News, whatever, WLOS did a little interview with that guy from the DMV himself. So let's just go over what he says really quickly so then it'll be nice and clear for everybody. With the new North Carolina law that will have paperless Department of Motor Vehicle registrations, there have been many questions. Starting October 1st, North Carolina will move to an electric vehicle registration system. This means drivers will no longer receive a physical registration card or the annual sticker that goes on the license plate. That leaves drivers asking questions. The latest question asked by a News 13 viewer in their whatever segment: what happens if I stopped in another state and an officer asked for my registration? One viewer put it this way: does the NCDMV suggest you say, look it up online, officer? And the answer the NCDMV gave was essentially yes. The communications director, Marty Homan, the guy from the last video, says drivers stopped outside the state should let the officer know that they are from North Carolina. The DMV is working with neighboring states and law enforcement agencies to make them aware of the changes. But Homan said officers already have ways to check whether a driver's registration is current even without a piece of paper. Right now, law enforcement does not need a printed registration card to be able to tell that you are current on your registration. Me interjecting here. Exactly, they haven't needed this for about 20 years. Ever since they started putting those laptops in the cars, the cops have been able to type that stuff in and find out to begin with. It was always just a way to try and trap you for not having your card, or if you go back far enough, not having your registration signed so they could write you a ticket to try and generate revenue. That was my point in the last video, is that even if this is going away, there's still going to be some bit of overlap for any yet to be determined amount of time of where cops are going to try and say, show me this. Oh, you don't have it. I'm going to write you a ticket. And then you'll have to go get it dismissed. But that just takes money or time out of your day to go to a courthouse if they don't do it online. And that will happen until they are smacked down enough to where they don't do it anymore. And they will figure out another way to try and give you tickets to generate revenue, because that's all police are for. Most of the time now is just a revenue generation source for the government. All right, main patrol cars are equipped with license plate readers, which they need to get rid of, flock cameras and all that stuff, which can quickly show whether a vehicle's registration is up to date. If an officer doesn't have a plate reader, Homan says patrol vehicles have computers that can connect directly to the state's registration system, so they'll be able to punch into their system to see if you are current anyway. Well, if an officer wants proof on paper, North Carolina drivers still have options. After a driver renews registration, the driver will receive a receipt with a barcode. Homan says drivers can scan the barcode and print their own copy of the registration to keep in their vehicles. Drivers can also request a printed registration record from the DMV, although there will be a small printing and mailing fee. Homan says the same electronic system will be used by inspection stations to verify registration information, so while the paper documents are going away, the information isn't. That's right, it's all going to be there. You're still going to do the process the same. You're just not going to get a sticker, and you're not going to get the paper mailed out to you. With that being said, it says here a receipt with a barcode. So I'm going to assume that's one of those QR codes that is intended for you to scan with your phone to then bring it up, and then you can print it out from that way. That is a problem for old people who do not get along with technology, and they will not have a phone to where they will be able to pull that up and print it. So they will have to either, I'm sure they will also be able to access it online in some way through their own login credentials in some way. Could also be difficult for the old people, but they should know someone young who could potentially help them out. Or if they still want the paper, and this was something that asked me, a lot of people ask me as well, if you still want the paper to come from the DMV, you can request it. They will just then charge you a fee at that given point in time. I do not see the fees going down in any way. You're still going to pay the same amount of money for your registration, all that stuff. The only time that should be cheaper is if you were in a county that was still doing emissions testing. That has now ended for waiting on EPA approval, but it should end right now because there's only 18 or 20 states in the whole counties in the entire state that was still doing emissions inspections. So if all these other counties don't have to do it, then none of them should have to do it. So I don't imagine waiting on approval will be an issue. But the only county that will still now have emissions inspections will be Mecklenburg County, and you will still have to pay the full emissions inspection price to get that done. I would think that any county that is now no longer doing emissions, the price of that will drop down to just the price of the safety inspections, and you will be able to save money that way. But yeah, that is it. Quick little update. If you're worried about what's going to happen if you're driving out of state, print out a paper copy. I recommend everyone print out a paper copy for the next couple of years until everything is straightened out. And then just remember that all cops already have access to all this. They already know if you have your registration. They already know what your insurance is. They all have all this because it's all in the same national database that they all have access to. They just type in a tag. It all comes up together. You will still run into the cops that want to try and demand stuff from you that you don't need to provide. But if you do run into those guys, it's always better to have it on hand just to make sure that you can show them and just CYA at that given point in time. But all right, guys, that's all I got for today. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.